think of the Earth, what comes to mind? Continents, bodies of water, landforms? How about a specific place? What kind of animals and plants live in that place? And what's the weather like there? Wow, there's so much great geography to think about. But have no fear, help is here. Hello, I'm Cindy Mincer, and today we're going to learn about the 5 themes of geography. And we'll discover how maps and globes help us study our world. Let's begin first by taking a closer look at the word geography. It comes from the Greek word geographia. Geo means earth and graphia means description. So the word geography actually means description of the earth. But the science of geography really covers so much more. Not only is it the study of the Earth's physical features, but geography also includes all of the relationships among everything on Earth. All living organisms, resources, and the climate. Our planet Earth has a surface area of approximately 197 million square miles. Over 1.4 million different species of plants and animals have been identified so far. Just the population of the human species numbers over 6 billion. The Earth is huge, so how do we even begin to study all of it? Well, we can start by dividing it up. The study of geography is often sorted into 5 main themes: location, place, movement, human-environment interaction, and regions. In this program, we will review each one separately, but keep in mind that they're all interrelated. Together, the 5 themes of geography help us to understand our world. Maps and globes are important tools that illustrate information about each theme of geography. So before we discuss the themes, let's take a closer look at maps and globes. Standing here on Earth, it looks flat, right? Even if we look at the horizon, we see a flat surface. But if we were to travel to outer space and look down on the planet, we would see that it's round or spherical. Since it's not practical to travel to space to get a true view of Earth, we use a globe. Globes are the most realistic representations of Earth. A globe is a 3-dimensional image. Maps, on the other hand, are 1-dimensional or flat. Maps can show the whole Earth or just part of it. Although they aren't as realistic, maps usually allow us to add more detail about the areas they represent. Not only can maps show us where places are in relation to other places, they can guide us and give us information about a location. Maps can show physical features like lakes, rivers, and mountains. They can also show political features like cities and towns and state and national boundaries. Maps can even be designed to show specific characteristics, like what crops grow in a place or how much rainfall it gets. When you look at a globe or a map of the world, the first thing you notice are the different continents and bodies of water. Continents are large areas of land above sea level. There are 7 major continents: South America, North America, Australia, Asia, Europe, Africa, and Antarctica. Nearly 3/4 of the Earth is covered by water. Oceans are large areas of salt water. There are 4 oceans: Pacific, Indian, Atlantic, and Arctic. On a globe, all the landforms and bodies of water are represented to scale, meaning their true shapes and sizes are scaled down and proportionate to one another. That's what makes a globe look so realistic. If we project a globe onto a flat surface like a map, the proportions change. Let me show you what I mean. The Earth is round like an orange. If I peel this orange into one solid piece, I end up with this. Now, imagine trying to read a map off of something shaped like this. It would be difficult. The peel needs to be stretched and cut to lie flat. When we do the same thing with the surface of the globe, the shapes and sizes of the land and water are altered. So a map's representation of Earth is not as realistic as a globe, but maps are more versatile. Map makers or cartographers can combine lots of different information to study almost any geographic relationship. You can even make your own map by applying data to illustrate a relationship. For example, human population and food distribution. Maps fall into two categories: general reference and thematic. General reference maps provide common information about an area. For example, political maps show capitals and borders, while physical maps illustrate topography with different colors or lines, or even texture to show elevations. These are called relief maps. Thematic maps highlight more specific information. You can find thematic maps on just about any geographical topic. Population density, distribution of natural resources or languages. Several basic elements help us understand the information on a map: the title, legend, scale, compass rose, and grid. The title tells us what area and what kind of information is included on a map. A map's legend lists the different symbols that represent the information the map is showing. Depending on the map, the symbols could represent boundaries, railroads, national capitals, and water. A map's scale measures distance. It gives the proportion of the representative distance to the real distance. Depending on the size of the map, the scale could signify feet, miles, or kilometers. For example, on this map, 1 inch represents 25 miles or 40 kilometers. Maps can show direction in two ways: by the compass rose and the grid. The compass rose shows which way is north on the map. North is usually at the top. North, south, east, and west are known as cardinal directions because they are the main geographic directions. Northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest are intermediate directions. The grid is made up of latitude and longitude lines. Latitude lines run east and west. Longitude lines run north and south. These imaginary lines measure degrees and can be further broken down into minutes and seconds. There are 60 minutes in a degree and 60 seconds in a minute. Any place on Earth can be identified as a point at which longitude and latitude lines cross. We call these numbers coordinates. For example, the coordinates for the exact center of Nashville, Tennessee would look like this: 36 degrees, 10 minutes, 10 seconds north latitude, and 86 degrees, 48 minutes, 15 seconds west longitude. Minutes are represented by 1 tick mark and seconds are represented by 2. 3 imaginary grid lines have special names. These lines divide the Earth into hemispheres, which mean halves of a sphere. The equator is in the center of the globe, halfway between the north and south poles. It's the longest latitude line because it circles the Earth at its widest point. Everything north of the equator is the northern hemisphere, and everything south of it is the southern hemisphere. The equator is 0 degrees latitude. All other latitude lines go from the equator to 90 degrees north and 90 degrees south. Latitude lines are also known as parallels because they are parallel to the equator. They never cross one another. Lines going the other direction are longitude lines or meridians. They all meet at the poles. The starting point runs from the North Pole to the South Pole through the Royal Astronomical Observatory in Greenwich, England. This line is known as the prime meridian and measures 0 degrees longitude. The prime meridian does not go completely around the Earth like the equator. The imaginary line on the opposite side of the Earth from the prime meridian is the international date line. It's 180 degrees longitude. The Earth is also divided at these two lines. Everything west of the prime meridian to the international date line is the western hemisphere, and everything east of the prime meridian to the international date line is the eastern hemisphere. This imaginary grid, the lines of latitude and longitude, will help us as we study the first theme of geography, location. Where am I? If you ask yourself that question, then you want to know your location. There are two types of location, relative and absolute. Relative location is where one location is in relation to another. For example, Texas is in the southern United States, south of Oklahoma. An absolute location is an exact point like your home or a city. Absolute locations can be described with a detailed address or with coordinates. Every point on Earth has a specific location that is defined by latitude and longitude. Direction is as important as degrees when stating a location. North and south latitude are in different hemispheres, so are east and west longitude. So let's try to find a location by using latitude and longitude lines. What is at 18 degrees, 54 minutes north latitude, 72 degrees, 40 minutes east longitude? It's Bombay, India. But we can find even more precise locations by using the geographical grid. It comes in handy when you're in an emergency. So let's say you take a boat out on the ocean and the boat runs out of gas. You can give the Coast Guard your exact location, 33 degrees, 14 minutes, and 32 seconds north latitude, and 125 degrees, 18 minutes, 46 seconds west longitude. Remember, direction is an important part of coordinates. If you give them the wrong direction, like saying east instead of west longitude, then they'll think you're close to China instead of off the California coast. You'll have to know your latitude and longitude to find out where you are or where you're going. But if you have trouble knowing which is which, try this. Longitude lines are long because they go up and down, and latitude lines are like the rungs on a ladder. Latitude. Latitude. What is the latitude and longitude of your town or city? Once you have your location, you need to find out more about your place. When we talk about a place, we have to identify the human and physical characteristics that make it unique and different. Human characteristics include buildings, roads, clothing, and food. People also have certain feelings or experiences that go along with a place, like the way you feel about your hometown or the memories you have about your first vacation. The physical characteristics of a place include the landforms, type of soil and plant life, and the animals that live there. The weather is another physical characteristic. Weather influences many aspects of the place, including its businesses, crops, buildings, and even recreational activities. By knowing these characteristics, we can plan accordingly. For example, you wouldn't want to schedule a vacation on the east coast of Florida during hurricane season, would you? Some important lines of latitude can help us learn about the climate and seasons of a place. You see, the reason we have seasons is because the Earth is tilted on its axis as it orbits around the Sun. At one end of the orbit, the tilt of the Earth brings the northern hemisphere closest to the Sun. On the longest day of the year, or the summer solstice, usually June 21st, the Sun's rays reach the highest point north on the Earth. During this time, the points receiving direct radiation from the Sun lie on the Tropic of Cancer, an imaginary line located at 23.5 degrees north latitude. Also during the summer solstice, the Sun never sets north of the Arctic Circle, which is an imaginary line located at 66.5 degrees north latitude. At the same time, on the other end of the Earth, the sun never rises south of the Antarctic Circle, which is 66.5 degrees south latitude. That means during the Northern Hemisphere's summer, the Arctic never gets completely dark, and the Antarctic never sees the sun. When the Earth moves to the other side of the sun, the Northern Hemisphere experiences winter. During the winter solstice around December 20th, the sun's rays are directly focused on the Tropic of Capricorn, which is 23.5 degrees south latitude. Around this time, the opposite happens. The sun never rises north of the Arctic Circle and never sets south of the Antarctic Circle. The area between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn is appropriately called the tropics. This area receives the most direct sunlight, so the climate is warm all year round. The areas to the north of the Tropic of Cancer and to the south of the Tropic Capricorn are called temperate zones. They experience more distinct seasons as the Earth orbits the sun: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And of course, the polar areas north of the Arctic Circle and south of the Antarctic Circle are cold year-round. So weather and climate have a lot to do with location on Earth. Some physical characteristics are created by actions that occur deep within the Earth. The Earth is composed of 4 layers: the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. The Earth's crust is not one solid piece. It actually has several pieces called tectonic plates. When pressure below the crust causes plates to move, the result is an earthquake along a fault line, or where 2 plates meet. The fault lines are illustrated on this map. As you can see, some cities lie directly on top of the plate boundaries, so people living there must be prepared for earthquakes. Volcanoes can also occur along fault lines. Magma, the hot melted rock in the outer core, pushes so hard through the mantle that it cracks the Earth's crust and forms a volcano. The magma will either flow out slowly from the crust or be blown out with an explosive force. Magma that leaves the Earth's core is called lava. Lava and ash slowly build up over time, creating volcanic mountains. The islands of Hawaii were formed by volcanoes. So, to define a place, you'll have to look at many human and physical features. It's important to gather all this geographical data so that you'll have a better understanding of the area and how the people live in that area. What are some human and physical characteristics of your school? People and things around the world don't just stay in one place forever. Everything is on the move. So when you study geography, you also study how things move from one place to another place. Movement is vital to our understanding of geography because it helps us learn more about the relationships between different locations. Today, the world is more connected than it ever has been. Humans are constantly moving. We have many modes of transportation to keep us on the go. We are able to travel to different countries, learn about different cultures, and gather new ideas. Maps can show major patterns of human movement. Population density maps are very useful in tracking the growth of cities. This map shows the uneven distribution of the Earth's population. People are social. We move all over the world and settle in villages, towns, or cities. We bring our cultures, thoughts, and beliefs with us. It's the exchange of ideas that's part of geography. It helps shape our world. Information is moving too. With the internet, we can gather and share information with people all over the world. Having more information helps us to make better decisions about how to use and distribute resources. Goods are on the move as well. Many things that we need, like the food we eat and the clothes we wear, have been transported from some other place. For example, when fishing boats go out onto the oceans and bring back their catches, the fish are shipped to fish markets across the country. With all this movement, it's important to stop and reflect on where your family and ancestors came from, where the products that you use every day come from, and where the goods that are produced in your hometown are shipped. Where did your clothes come from? Find out by checking the tags. Geography isn't limited to just the study of the Earth. It also deals with how people interact with their environment. Humans affect their surroundings. The things we do to the environment can have positive or negative consequences. We can preserve nature by maintaining parks and protected areas. Or we can destroy the environment by polluting air and water. People not only impact their environment, but they adapt to it as well. Homes reflect where we live. The clothes we wear are also adapted to the climate and season. Another way we interact with our surroundings is by modifying them. We build houses, roads, and schools. We also dig reservoirs or canals to divert water to farms and homes. There's a delicate balance between modifying the environment to fit our needs and maintaining the environment for the future. Throughout history, humans have used the environment for their benefit. Sometimes it's produced disastrous results. Poor farming practices in the 1930s led to the Dust Bowl. The prairie land in a large part of the Midwest became barren. Crops would not grow in the overused soil. More recently, developers have been cutting and clearing tropical rainforests to use the rich soils to grow profitable crops. But rainforests are ecologically valuable. Many plant and animal species thrive only in the rainforest environment. It's a fact that humans depend on their environment for survival. We rely on Earth's resources every day. Without land to farm, we would not have food to eat. Without oil or coal, we would not have energy to transport people and goods, to operate factories and businesses, or to heat and cool our homes. Without trees, we would not have paper products or wood for building. We must keep in mind an important fact about the Earth's resources. They are limited. We must learn how to conserve them so that they will last as long as we do. What we do today will impact our tomorrow. If we study the effects of how humans interact with their surroundings, we'll be better prepared to manage the environment for the future. What are some ways you impact the environment? Geographers separate the Earth into regions to make it easier to study. A region has certain identifiable characteristics, like weather and climate, plants and animals, and the culture of the people who live there. As I mentioned earlier, the Earth has climate zones. Climate varies even within each of these zones. Things like elevation, proximity to large bodies of water, and where a place lies in relation to wind and ocean currents all affect a region's climate. Regions can be characterized by the varying amounts of rainfall they receive and the range of temperatures they experience. Within the temperate zone are hot, dry desert regions and lush, green, fertile regions. The weather can affect the soil, and the soil influences what vegetation can survive. Vegetation has some effect on animal life as well. Wooded areas harbor animals that live in and around trees, like birds and squirrels. Arid deserts are more apt to accommodate burrowing mammals and cold-blooded reptiles that can survive hot temperatures with very little water. A region can also be identified by political boundaries, like Central America, or by large water and land features, like the Great Lakes region and the Rocky Mountain region. Culture is strongly influenced by the physical characteristics of a place. Regions can also be identified by the way people perceive an area and for the inherent culture. For example, we identify the Middle East region by the predominantly Arabic populations, Muslim religions, and the clothes, food, and architecture. But we're not limited to these examples. In fact, you can use your own classification system to divide the world into regions as you study geography. What are some of the major regions in the United States? You can learn so much about the Earth and everything on it by studying geography. Knowing these 5 themes will help you learn what geography is all about. They help us understand that everything on Earth is connected, and people around the world depend on Earth and each other to survive. With maps, globes, and a desire to explore the world around you, there's no end to the great geography you can discover. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.